Okay, boys and girls, I have Mr. David here and I'm going to dress him like a scarecrow. So I'm going to put this through his arms and let him pretend like he's sticking his arms out to scare off the crow. One more poke. Okay, now, can you put your arms over it like that? Yeah, that's a scarecrow. And a scarecrow is supposed to keep the birds away from eating up all the corn. He looks pretty scary, doesn't he? We went looking for signs of fall this morning. Mr. David and I took a drive all the way to Heber Springs, Arkansas, looking for signs of fall. Have you seen the little squirrels coming to eat acorns outside on your tree? They're storing up food for winter, and they're getting all the yummy little nuts to put in the trees, and they're eating them. You see that? All those sweet little nuts that they can save until it snows when they don't find any. And we saw signs of, oh, Mr. David, did we see the pumpkins? Mm-hmm. We saw a pumpkin stand, and we got some yellow flowers for our yard. Have you seen any signs of fall lately? Do you see this farm? I've seen some of you this week playing with frogs outside on the farm. And this little boy right here, his name can be Asher. You see him? He thinks he's going to go swimming, but he's cold today. So what should we put on him? Let's put some overalls on him. Does that feel better, Asher? Asher loves that. And what about a little hat to keep his head from getting so cold outside? I think he loves that. And Asher's gonna go up to the cornfield and put a scarecrow out. Does that look good for fall? We're still growing some corn on the rows, and he doesn't want anybody to eat his corn. I've been seeing a lot of nice pictures this week. Thank you for showing us pictures. I saw one from Emerson. She was coloring a coat of many colors. Emerson and her little brother were. And I've seen a lot of people doing crafts. I hope you keep sending pictures to me. We surely have enjoyed it. Thank you. These are all of the seasons that God made. And the squirrels looking over our seasons. We were out here one time, a long time ago, when the baby birds were hatching. And that's called spring, isn't it, Mr. David? Let's find spring on this map. Oh, right there, where all the butterflies and flowers are. You know that's winter when it snows outside. We just had the beach weather where we put away our swimming suits, packed those up, and took down our little pools in the yard. And now we woke up today, and oh my goodness, it was so cold outside, Mr. David had to wear a jacket. That's what it is now, fall. So let's see if we can match these little people up. Where does the snowman go? Does it go right here? And here's the little girl that's playing in the spring. And she goes down there with the flowers. She's picking flowers. And this is maybe Lily when she went to the beach. We just came back from the beach about 2 weeks ago. That's summertime, isn't it? And now it's fall and we get to play in the leaves. That's going to be so fun when Ezra can jump in the leaves and everybody can have fun outside, and you don't even have to wear a big coat, just a jacket sometimes. Those are the seasons that God gave us. One of my favorite things to do this time of year is to go outside and gather up as many leaves as I can. Do you do that, William and Adeline? Do y'all play in the leaves? I hope you do. Let's sing some songs about leaves. Mr. David, can you help me sing the swish swish? Okay, ready? The leaves on the trees come falling down, falling down, falling down. The leaves on the trees come falling down all through the town. The leaves on the ground go swish, 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 swish. The leaves on the ground go swish, 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 all through the town. The children on the ground go rake, 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 rake. The children on the ground go rake, 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 all through the town. Do you know any other songs about leaves, Mr. David? Okay, we're going to sing a song about leaves at the end. We're just going to add in leaves to the familiar song of God Made the Big Round Sun. Get ready to make a big sun. Ready? God made the big round sun.
God made the tall, tall trees. God made the birds that fly. And God made
Okay, let's have a little review. I want to see if you've listened to our Bible stories. A long time ago, there was the first man and the first woman. Do you remember their names? Were their names Adam and Eve? That's right. And they lived in the beautiful Garden of Eden. Do you remember that tricky snake that said, eat the fruit, eat the fruit? And Eve did. She ate the bite and even tricked Adam into eating it. And that story is in the Bible to teach us obedience. God wants us to obey. He made them leave the garden. Do you remember that? And then we've never talked about this toy before, but I found it upstairs. This is the big boat that who built? You remember the Good Old Noah song? Good Old Noah built a boat. And did he make this boat really big to take care of all the bad people and all the good people inside? No, he didn't. He built it for the animals. That's right, and God saved Noah because he was good. And then something in my bag came out after the flood was all gone. Do you remember what it was? It was the rainbow. That's right. You've been paying attention. And we had all of the colors, red and orange, yellow. Which is next? Green. What is next? Blue. I missed the blue one. There's blue. And violet. 6 colors, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. And up in the sky, God placed the rainbow to tell Noah he would keep the promise and never destroy the earth like that again. And every time we see the rainbow, we remember God's promise. I'm not so good at making the rainbow, but that's kind of what it looks like. Then we talked about Abraham having baby Isaac when Sarah laughed. And last week we talked about Joseph getting the beautiful coat. And the Bible bear has on the coat today, don't you? He does. He likes his beautiful coat. Today we're going to tell the second part of the story, which is even better. It's a beautiful story about learning to forgive. And the Bible bear was out collecting big, heavy rocks a while ago. And he's so tired. He's out of breath, aren't you? Yeah, he didn't want to have to hold that heavy load. And you know, that's kind of like it feels when you forgive somebody. If you set down your big sack of rocks. The Bible bear was trying to get all the rocks out of my yard, and I'm very thankful for the Bible bear. But he's breathing heavy and he's tired and it's hard on him. And God wants us to put down that feeling of anger and hatred towards others and to learn to forgive. And that's what our story is about today. Mama Dean is going to tell you the story. She's a good storyteller, and I want you to get all your wiggles out, jump up and down, and be ready to sit really still because it's a great story. Okay?
Last week we studied Joseph. He's one of our favorite characters in the Bible. And his brothers, there were 12 of them, 10 brothers, put him down in a big old pit. And they were going to leave him there to die. And they sat down to eat while he was crying and begging for help. And his brother Judah said, well, he is our brother. Let's don't kill him. Why don't we just sell him? I see some Ishmaelites coming up the road, and they're going down to Egypt with all their spices to sell to Egypt. Let's see if we can sell him. And sure enough, they sold their brother to the Ishmaelites, and they took him in their caravan all the way down to Egypt to sell him as a slave. They got 20 pieces of silver for him. A terrible thing. And Joseph was leaving his home, his brothers, his daddy. But he wasn't alone. God went with him all the way right down to Egypt. And the brothers went back and took the coat of many colors You remember the daddy gave him the beautiful coat of many colors. They dipped it in the blood like the blood of an animal, and they took it back to their daddy to say, do you know whose coat this might be? And he grieved over it, and he said, oh, yes, that's my son Joseph's coat. He's been eaten by the wild animals. That's so sad. He mourned about it. He put on sackcloth, and he mourned for days. And the brothers must have felt very sad they had done such a wicked thing. But Joseph was all right, because he went to Egypt. And when he got down there, he became a slave, all right. A man named Potiphar, who was a ruler in the country, bought him. And he liked Joseph very much. Joseph was such a good worker. Everything went well for him. God blessed him in everything he did. And Potiphar liked him so much that he made him ruler over all the slaves and all the workers in his house. He even gave him charge of his silver and gold, everything except his wife. Well, his wife liked Joseph so much. One day Potiphar was gone and everybody in the house was gone. And she loved Joseph, and she said, come and love me. And he said, oh no, I couldn't do that terrible thing and sin against God. But she begged him, and she came after him, and she finally just laid hold on him and pulled his coat right off of him. And what did he do? He just ran as fast as he could and got away from her, because he knew that was wrong. And he did not give in to her. Well, when Potiphar came home, she told Potiphar, look what that slave you bought did. He came in and tried to get me to lie with him, and he left his coat here. And I called for help, but nobody came. And Potiphar was so upset and so outraged that he threw Joseph into the prison. And it was the king's prison, Pharaoh's prison. And when he got down there into the prison, he was with some of the other men who had been kicked out of the king's palace, the butler and the baker. Now, the butler was the one who served the king's drink, his wine, and took care of him, maybe his clothes too. And the baker cooked for him in the kitchen. And they had made the king displeased about something they did, and he threw them into prison. Well, while Joseph was down there, he did such a good job, and God blessed him so much that even this man who ruled over the prison put Joseph in charge of everything. Again, he was made the highest one in the prison to take care of all the duties. But one night, these men looked sad, the butler and the baker. Joseph said, what is wrong? Why are you sad today? And they said, well, we had a dream, and there's nobody to tell us the meaning of it. And Joseph said, tell me the dream. God will give us the meaning. And the butler said, well, last night I dreamed that there were 3 branches of grapes growing in a vine, and they were up on top of my head, and I reached up there and squeezed the vine with the juice into the cup and gave it to the king. And Joseph said, that's a good dream. What that means is the 3 vines are 3 days. In 3 days, the king is going to take you out of prison, and he's going to restore you to your place where you can serve him his wine and his drink. And you'll be back where you were. No more prison. Oh, the baker was glad to hear that. He said, okay, I'll tell you my dream. I dreamed that there were 3 baskets on my head. And in the top basket were all kinds of goodies. They may have been like cookies and cakes. They were sweets and good things to eat. And he said the birds came and ate the goodies out of that top basket. And Joseph said, that's not a good sign. The 3 days are the 3 baskets that are on top of your head. And the king will take you out of prison, but he'll hang you on a tree and you'll die. The birds will come and eat of your flesh. Oh, he was sad, but he said to the butler, since you're going out, remember me and tell the king I didn't do anything wrong. I don't deserve to be in prison. Remember me. And the butler said, I will. But he didn't. He got out and went about his life and forgot all about Joseph. He was so glad to be out. Well, one day, King Pharaoh had a dream too. And he was distraught. Who can tell me the meaning of that dream? And one of The butler was standing nearby, and he said, I had forgotten till today. That's my bad. I had forgotten Joseph down in prison. And he told me the meaning of a dream and told the baker the meaning, and it happened just like he said. And he said, God is with that man. And the king said, go bring him in. I want him to tell me the meaning of my dream. And he went to the prison, and Joseph washed himself and put on clean clothes and came and stood before the king. And the king said, all right, I'll tell you my dream and you tell me the meaning. And Joseph said, no, I don't do it. God does it. God will tell you the meaning of the dream. The king said, I dreamed that there were some cows. They were very lean, skinny cows. They came up in my dream, and there were 7 big fat cows. And the 7 skinny cows ate up the 7 fat cows, and they were still little and skinny. And then I dreamed about some corn, the ears of corn that were fat and big and nice. And then there were 7 ears of corn that were skinny and thin, not good. And the 7 skinny ears of corn ate up the 7 fat ears and were still skinny and poor. The king said, what could that mean? And Joseph said, well, the 7 ears of corn and the 7 cows are the same. That's 7 years. You're going to have 7 years of plenty with lots of corn and lots of meat, and everything will grow and the rain will come. But then you're going to have 7 years with no rain, no corn, nothing will grow, and they'll be poor, and we'll all be poor and hungry. And the king said, what are we going to do about it? What do you suggest, Joseph? And Joseph said, well, I would suggest that we have somebody that will take up the corn and the grain and the beef and the good years and put it in storehouses. Don't use it all. Don't eat it all at one time. Keep it. Then when the 7 bad years come, we'll have plenty of food to eat, to divide with others. The king said, I like that. I'm going to make you in charge of it, Joseph. In fact, I'm going to make you a great ruler. You're going to be next to me. We're going to build a house for you. And you're going to live close to me, and I'm going to put the king's clothing on you, the princess clothing, and the necklace and the headband. See, he dressed him all up. And he said, you are going to be the one to take care of this. Well, Joseph did that, and he collected all the good food during those good years. But then came the hard years with no rain, no corn, no beef. And who do you think might be hungry? His brothers back in Canaan also had drought with no rain, no corn, and nothing going their way. And their daddy said, and this was Jacob, Joseph's daddy, he said, well, you'll have to go to Egypt because I hear they have food down there, and buy food in Egypt and bring it back to us. And the brothers did what their daddy said, and they went to Egypt. And he said, you can't take Benjamin with you. Something might happen to him like happened to Joseph. But you could go and buy food. And he gave them lots of money to buy with. And they went to Egypt. Who do you think they're going to see when they get to Egypt? They're going to see their brother Joseph that they have forgotten. It's been so many years and they haven't seen him, and they wouldn't dream of him being a ruler in Egypt. But he came out to meet them, and when he saw them and counted them up, he knew who they were, every one of them. So he decided to try them out a little bit, and he said, oh no, you didn't come to buy grain. You're spies. You've come to spy out our land. You're our enemies. And they said, oh, no, we're not. We're all the sons of one man. And we have one. He said, do you have any other brothers? And they said, yes, we have one brother at home. And he said, I don't believe you. And he took Simeon and put him in prison. And then he said, now you go back and get that younger brother and bring him. And I'll believe then that you're not spies. But unless you bring that brother with you, don't come back to see me. You go. And he filled their sacks with grain so they would have food to eat. And he had it filled very full, and then he put their money back in their sacks. And when they got away toward home, they opened their sacks, and they were worried. There was all their money. They might appear to be thieves. But they went in and they told their daddy, oh, we had some experience down there. That ruler was harsh and he was ugly to us and he called us spies. And he said we couldn't come back to buy food unless we brought our brother Benjamin. And Jacob said, no, you can't take Benjamin. No way. You're not going back. So they ate their corn and they ate their meat, everything they had until it was gone. And then they said, Jacob said, okay, I guess you'll have to go back, but you can't take Benjamin. And they said, no, we won't go without Benjamin. He said not to show our face unless we had him with us. So finally the daddy said, all right, take Benjamin. And Judah said, I'll look after him. I'll see that he comes back. You depend on me. And they took Benjamin and they went back. Well, when Joseph saw him coming, he saw his brother Benjamin and he had to go off and cry. He was so glad to see him. He was just acting like he was treating them harsh because he loved them, even after all this time and after all they'd done to him. Joseph loved him. And so he said to him, you come in and eat with me. And they seated around his table in order of birth. Reuben first and Simeon and right on down to Benjamin. And Benjamin had 5 times the portion of food the others had. Gave it all to him. And then he brought Simeon out of prison and restored him to the family and filled their sacks with grain, their beef, everything they needed. They started toward home. But he told the steward, run and put my silver cup into the sack of Benjamin and put their money back in the sacks. They got started toward home and they stopped to look in their sacks because they saw a servant of Joseph coming. And the servant said, somebody stole my master's cup, his silver cup. And they said, oh, no, we would never do that. We brought the money back before that you gave us. We're not thieves. We would never do it. And they set their sacks on the ground, and he said, we'll just open them and see. And as he opened the sacks of Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, no silver cup, but he got to Benjamin. And when he looked in Benjamin's sack, there was the master's silver cup. Oh, they were dismayed. They didn't know what to do. They went in and to talk to Joseph, went back to Joseph's house, and they said, oh, sir, we would never steal my master's cup. We've brought back the money. We've done everything right. But Joseph spoke harshly, and he said, I'll keep Benjamin, and you go back on home. You weren't the thieves. He was the thief. And Judah said, oh, no. Please, let him go. My master will die. My father will die if he misses Benjamin. I'll stay in his place. Put me in prison and I'll do what you want me to do. But please let Benjamin go home. Joseph is seeing that those are good men now. They are not the rough, mean men that put him in the pit and sold him as a slave. They want their daddy to be happy. And they said to each other, this evil has come on us because of what we did to our brother when we put him in that pit and sold him. Now all that's coming back to us. God is giving us hardship. And when Joseph heard that, he began to cry and he wept loudly and all the people heard him. And he said to them, I am your brother Joseph. And they didn't say anything. They got very quiet. What would he do to them? He might put them in the pit. He might sell them off as slaves. He might have them killed. He's a ruler now. But what did he do? He went over and hugged Benjamin and kissed him, fell on his neck and hugged him. He was so glad to see him. Then he went by and hugged each one of his brothers and told them, I'm your brother Joseph. You did a bad thing. You thought you were doing a bad thing, but God used it for good. He's brought me to get food for all of us, to save food so we could all eat and be well, and to take care of you and take care of my father Jacob. It was all God's plan. And the brothers finally relaxed a little and they hugged him. And they saw that he really did love them and he was really going to treat them well, though they had treated him so harshly. And he said, go back home and get your father and bring him and all your children, because we have 5 more years of famine, hardships, and bring them down here and we'll feed them and take care of them. Oh, they were anxious to rush home and tell their daddy the story. Daddy, we went to Egypt and it was Joseph who was the ruler. He is alive and he wants you to come. And he couldn't believe it. His son was alive. But they said, look out there and you'll see the wagons and the horses that he has sent to bring you down to Egypt with. And when he saw the wagons and the horses, he believed them. And he said, I will go and see my son Joseph before I die. And he was a happy old man, and all the brothers were happy for him. And he went to Egypt, and they lived there throughout his life with the care of Joseph, who took care of all of them. Wasn't he a good man? He forgave his brothers and loved them in spite of what they did to him.